You know, it's called Despicable Me 4, but you want to know what I call it? Cashgrab the movie. You know, guys, I hate to say it, but how did we get two movies that are part of really great franchises and they both suck? I mean, how? And to make it worse, they're the fourth installments in their franchises that I both love. I mean, come on. No, before you said, I'm not talking about Kung Fu Panda 4. Though, if you want to watch my review on that movie, then I'll leave a link at the bottom of this one. I'm talking about Despicable Me 4. Now, before I begin, I just want to say that I'm a huge fan of this franchise, just like Kung Fu Panda franchise. And let me just say that when I heard there was going to be a fourth installment in the series, I wasn't that excited because the series has gone on way too long. But still, when I went to go see it, let's just say that this is the worst movie in the franchise. Now look, this movie isn't all bad. I mean, there are a couple of things I like in this film. Like I like the animation, even though some of the new characters look god-awful. I love Lucy and the girls, even though they're not as much as they don't have that much screen time. And I also love that the previous villains return in the movie. And no, that's about it. As for things I didn't like, we're gonna be here for a while. First, let's start with the biggest problem with the film. It has too many plots going on. Let me explain. You see, in the movie, Gru and his family go into hiding to get away from a new supervillain called, I don't know his name yet, but still. And in between, all of Gru's minions get thrown into a secret government experiment in order to make them superheroes for no reason. And other than that, we'd all get Lucy and the girls trying to adjust to their new lives. And what's more, Gru gets blackmailed by his new neighbor's daughter, whose name is Poppy, by the way, who wants to be a villain like he was. So they go to steal a badge from some old lady. And on top of all that, we still have the plot where Gru hides from the new villain. You see where the problems start? This film just has so many plots going on that it feels like the writers just don't know which idea to go with, so they just packed it onto this one movie and just try to pull it all together. And a lot of the stuff in this film are stuff we've already seen before. I mean, Gru's minions get turned into remarkable forms. That happened in the second movie. Gru meets a new character who finds out he was a previous villain and wants him to teach them ways of villainy. That's literally Gru's brother all over again. Gru struggles with the powerful villain at the beginning of the film, but quickly overcomes it at the end. I mean, that's literally almost every film in the franchise. And don't get me started on this film's good ideas. It has so many good ideas that just get ruined by poor execution that it's almost laughable. And now we get to the villain. And side note, I was gonna talk about Gru and how I didn't really like him in this film, but he wasn't that bad. And he does have some funny moments, like. I trained myself. But now, where do we get to the villain? Now, what was his name again? Maximum Lee Mel? I'll just call him Max. Where do I begin with this cockroach? This guy is the definition of a boring villain. Where do I even begin? Well, first, let's talk about his backstory. You know, I thought the chameleon had a bad reason to become a villain, but oh my god, this guy's backstory looks to the chameleon so like it's good in comparison. You see, the reason this guy becomes a bad guy is because Gru performed a song that he was going to perform at the talent show. A talent show. Yep. That's it. That's it. And let's compare it to the rest of the Despicable Me villains. First, we have Balthazar Brat. Now, while some people say that he's the weakest villain out of the franchise, I think that he's, well, pretty great. He's definitely got the most style out of all the villains. He's got the moves, the style, the gadgets, and every bit of screen time he has, he just makes it work. And he has one of the best villain entrances in the entire series. Next, we get to El Macho. And I mean, what can I say about this guy that hasn't already been said? He's ruthless, he's dangerous, and as the name implies, very macho. And Vector? Need I say less? And what does this new guy have? Well, he just turns people into cockroaches, and he also has a giant cockroach robot that runs on gas for some reason. And seriously, that was an awful joke about the gas joke. And he has a wife that destroys his ship while chasing Gru. Yep. And seriously, Gru, you have a shrink ray that's strong enough to shrink the moon, and a giant airship with giants of missiles, and you never even think of once about using them? Seriously? And what's more is that this guy doesn't really pose much of a threat at all. I mean, there's one thing that the Despicable Me villains have in common is that they were always a threat to our heroes. Vector, he literally kidnaps three little girls from her father and is willing to kill them all just because he wants to. And let me remind you that one of these girls is a 5-year-old. El Macho, well, he kidnaps Gru and all his minions, turns them into despicable monsters. He kidnaps Lucy and puts her on a rocket that was heading into a volcano. And Brat, he literally creates a giant robot that was willing to bubblegum a whole city and then shoot it up into space. And what does this new guy do? He just turns the guy into a cockroach. He doesn't kill him, and then he turns Gru's son into a half cockroach. That's it. And this is the guy that made Gru go into hiding. And what makes it worse is that Gru almost beats this guy 5 minutes into the film. So what's the whole point of all this? Did nobody in the writing team think this through? And he's just so boring. And he's more or less a villain and more of a stereotypical bully who gets gross mutant powers and just hates the MC for no reason. And I think I've said enough. Bottom line, if you want a movie that'll waste your time with predictable plot lines, a bland and boring villain, and unfunny jokes, well, you be you, but this movie is nothing more than a cash grab. And the fact that it's making $1 million in the box office is just an insult to the original trilogy. And it gets my rating of a 3 out of 10. Night, folks. And if you're wondering which movie I think is worse, then here's your answer.